Hello, everyone, and it's time for some intellectual anarchy where we do exercises, we engage in extreme truth, extreme common sense, and diversity of ideas. Now, like always, when the election cycle comes up, you always hear about the third party. I wish there were the third choice. I wish there was a third party. Always, same trope, every time. Blah, 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 blah. I want somebody else to choose from. I want the other party. I just want to get rid of the other party. And I want a third party. I want three choices instead of two choices. So let me go through the flaws of all this. Number one, we do have a third party, and we have a fourth party, and we have a fifth party. We have the Green Party, we have the Libertarian Party, a couple of others. We do have third parties. What you want, hypothetically, like you're saying, what I'm saying, that you want third party, I don't want me to be pointing my finger at you who don't really have a skin in the game in this argument. But, I digress. What you want is to have a third party, but have it be popular. Well, I'm sorry if the other ones are not as popular. What are you going to do? We already have third, fourth, fifth party, but they're not as popular. They don't get rarely, Ralph Nader and LaRouche, weird people, they come on their other ticket and they pretty much focus on one thing. And that's the problem with the Green Party and the Libertarian Party and LaRouche and Nader and all these weird candidates. And just wait, if Donald Trump don't get picked, he's going to be the third option, which would be terrible for Republicans. But because I don't think his ego is going to let him step down, he's going to be pissed off and just run as a third party, take the votes away from him, and that's how Joe Biden becomes president again, which would be a disaster. So they sort of have to give it to Donald Trump. That's the way I see it. I mean, his own children will have to come against him. But I digress. We already have third and fourth, fifth parties. And these other parties, they can be folded into, like the Libertarian candidate can be folded into the Republican candidate if he is charismatic and have good ideas on every subject. And that's what's good about the Democratic and Republican parties. They cover a whole host of issues. And the Republicans on the other side of the whole host of issues, instead of the Green Party coming in and just focusing on green agenda. Well, the American system and country is much wider than one agenda. And that's why they never work. That's why they have problems, because they're too niched. Niche works good in business, but it doesn't work good in politics. You got to have an overarching platform that tries to answer every question that the American citizen is dealing with. And the Democrats have their answer, and the Republicans have their answer, and the Libertarians have only answered a very little bit of it, and the Green Party only answers a little bit, but they can be folded in if they can have a broader platform, but they don't, and that's why they're insignificant, and that's why those third parties are not popular. You can't make somebody popular, and nobody wants to go through a couple of cycles of. And in our society today, let me just tell you the truth. If a third party that had steam, it would have to win the first election. It entered in, because with social media and the media, the legacy media and the conservative media would lambast that group, and it wouldn't survive one election cycle. They would have, once they started, they would have to win the next election cycle as president, for sure. They don't have to win all the House or the Congress or the Senate or the House, but they would have to win the presidency and a lot of governorships for them to be viable on the first time they did it. And then you have your viable three parties. But let me go about my other criticism about third parties. is third parties are terrible because it ensures that only like 35% of the vote wins. Can you imagine if Joe Biden or Donald Trump won by 30 because of 35% of the vote? That 65% of the vote they didn't get? That's all they would hear. Well, what confidence do you have that the American people are behind you? You know you only got 30% of the vote. 60% of the people don't want you. Have you seen those third world countries where they go ape shit because their president came in on 30% and they're fighting tooth and nail because that guy's implementing an agenda that 60% of the people who voted didn't want? In America, flawed as it is, unperfect as it is, hypothetically, in the best possible world, 51% of the people get what they want. And it's still divisive. I can't imagine if we had a viable third party that's pulling away 30-40% of the vote. That would be a recipe for disaster. A recipe for disaster for this country. So let me just say this. Third parties are stupid. And you're stupid for thinking about it. It's just pipe dreams, wishing. It's people are frustrated with the current people who represent them. I get it. But let me take a little time right here. Hey everyone, it's James Salazar here. Just want to take a moment and tell you about some of my other shows, some of the resources I offer, and some free things I have for you. Number one, you're probably watching on one of my YouTube channels, the James Salazar Media YouTube channel, and some of my other shows are the Brightburn YouTube Academy, where we talk about what it means to be an entrepreneur and the mindsets that you need to follow through on what you're going to do. We talk about in the Intellectual Anarchy, we talk about religion, philosophy, and politics, because I think they're inseparable from having a more powerful intellect and identity. We also have the James Salazar Media podcast right here, where we talk about politics, pop culture, and futurism. It's also a YouTube channel, and you can listen it on iTunes podcast. If you want to check out my coaching service, jamessalazarmedia.com. If you want to follow me on any social media, here's this QR code. Take a picture of that and it should link you to all my social media accounts. And what I have for free is the Brightburn Society Facebook group, where we maximize your illumination by maximizing your human potential so people will see your light. It's a free Facebook group. Just answer the questions and join right in. I also have a free handout for you right here called How Can You Be Great at Everything You Do Blueprint. It's a free ebook. Just put your name and your email, and that will be sent right to you. It will all the links will be in the show notes of this video. So press like, press subscribe, get notified, press the notification, whatever you need to do to follow my content. I really appreciate your time. This is James Salazar signing out. So here's the thing. People like to blame other things for a lack of control they feel in their life. They do. And one of the major scapegoats is government and what government is doing. And this mindset that if we could just put in a new party, everything will work fine. It's a faulty mindset, because you're ultimately asking the world to change for you instead of you making the adjustments to change. I want that to sink in for a second. You know, and a lot of these are just excuses for you getting involved. Most of the things that affects us are in our local government. And instead of just bitching and complaining that you want a third party because not everybody 100% lines up with your values, you want no part of it, well, that's what a child thinks. If there are people that hold 30% of your values and these other people present 0%, just work with those people who have 30% on the things you want to work with. Don't just give up. Don't relinquish any ground. Don't be so jaded that things can happen. Because let me tell you something. I bet you were upset over certain laws that were passed. I bet you were upset at certain people who got in. Right? Because one side felt it was possible. One side didn't give up, and they pushed the agenda towards their way and pushed it in their momentum. And you're sitting out doing nothing because you're hoping for some perfect party to come to save your ass. Well, no, you're going to have to save your own ass. You're going to have to make your own changes. You're going to have to make your own adjustments. You're going to have to do your part. Third parties are not the answer. They're just going to come with the same bullshit that the other ones come with. They just will, but in their own way. There will be people who will see it only to a point with you. And then you're, well, I want a fourth party. And maybe that fourth party will be perfectly lined up with my values. And we see what happens when you have groups of people who just believe the party line 100%. There's no change, there's no move, and there's heads butting. We need to be more perspective about the things. I am not a Republican. I'm a conservative libertarian. Not everything Republicans believe I like. There's a lot of things about the Democratic Party I don't like. There's some things I do like. And I don't let those party lines dictate what I'm going to believe. I let my logic, I let truth, I let diversity of ideas come in. And if they work, I say do them. And I'm not going to hold no party line against them if it doesn't make sense. But in saying that, I do not want more than two parties. 2 is perfect. 1 is terrible. 3 is worse. That's what I'm thinking. At least 51% of the people get what they want. Now knowing that, get involved. Convince people. And don't wrap your identity so much in the idea that people agree with you, because you won't be able to form an argument or change your idea. It takes listening, conversating to, number 1, to convince somebody, to adjust your argument, or just concede their point. And that's what the debate should be. The person with the better idea should win. The person who produced the better results should win. That's a totally different subject. So, I hope I stated the case. Number 1, we already have other parties in this country, but we can't make them popular. And just because you created a new one, and let me tell you, there's a party created every election cycle. They're just not popular, and they get no ground. So it hasn't worked, and America doesn't want it. Number 2, it would be a disaster if the President of the United States was run by only 35%, got in with only 35% of the vote. That would be a disaster for that presidency. And to be quite frankly, if a third party came in and took over some of the Senate and took over some of the House and didn't want to play along with Democrats or Republicans, that actually works good for libertarians, because we want things to be stagnant and nobody do anything. Stop making laws. Stop making laws that limit people's rights, because that's what it means. At the end of the day, when you make a law and that person defies that law, it equals men with guns coming and throwing you into jail. So Lay off the laws. Please. Come on. If you can't win with ideas, then it wasn't a good idea. Does that make sense? I don't know. It makes sense to me. The truth should always reign out. Common sense should reign out. Come in with your diversity ideas. Come with intellectual anarchy. Thank you for your time, folks. Thank you for your time. We're closing out. Hold on. Let me fix this.